We need to be thankful for God's will and purpose in our lives. To be thankful is to sense or show gratitude towards what God has done and for what His will has provided for our lives. See, we need to be thankful because the things that are happening in our lives that we pray for is God's will being done in our lives. We've all heard the phrase, God's willing. It is an English expression often used to point out or hope that our actions and activities are those that are willed by God. Now, we all know that some of the things that we do, they are not willed by God because they are not right. It is also in accordance with God's will that some of our desired events will come to pass, or that some of the negative things that we do will not come to pass. It's God's will that we live in unity with His purpose, and that it is revealed in our lives. Someone should be able to see God's purpose and His will being revealed in our lives, in the things that you do and the things that you say. Psalms 57, 1-4 says, "O God, have pity, for I am trusting you. I will hide beneath the shadow of your wings until the storm is past. I will cry to the God of heaven who does such wonders for me." Verse 3 says, "He will send down help." He'll send His will down from heaven to save me because of His love and His faithfulness. He will rescue me from the liars who are so intended upon destroying me. His will is that I be protected. The key is to accept God's purpose for our lives. See, a lot of us don't want to accept God's purpose for our lives. A lot of us, and not get too far ahead, a lot of us want to do the will of somebody else and not the will that God had purpose for us as individuals. God has numbered our days, and He will fulfill His will and His purpose that He has for us, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, God's will and purpose is going to be done in our lives. If God places His will on us to pray for somebody, He has given us an invitation to do His will in the life of that person. And we're now part of God's willful activities. See, on yesterday, there was a circumstance that me and my wife was involved in, and God's will was done. Someone needed a prayer, and we didn't hesitate to wait till we got to church, or because it wasn't a Sunday. We prayed right there in the facilities, in the business place for that individual and her family, because that was the will of God that we prayed then and there. To those who really trust God's will and believe that our prayers are heard, it is a fulfillment of God's will in our lives and in the lives of others. See, when you do God's will and it affects the lives of others, we will be fulfilled in doing our purpose that God has sent us here and ordained us to do. I only have one solid biblical question on the day and another one down the road, but the first question is, how will we know God's will for us? How will we know God's will for us? From the start, if we want to know God's plan for our lives, we must learn how to walk with God. We must learn how to communicate with God. We must learn how to develop a relationship with God. We need to establish a relationship with God. Christianity is all about a relationship with the Creator, rather than a religion that has been recognized by man. So we must cultivate our relationship with God. We should strive to know Him and not just be familiar with what He can do for us or what He has done for others. The best way to cultivate our relationship with God is by spending time in His Word, pausing for prayer, and taking every opportunity to be involved in the church and in the church's activities of soul saving and deliverance and healing. When we honestly seek salvation, God will begin the first step to revealing His plan or His will for our lives. Proverbs 3, 5 and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path. Many of us want to know God's purpose for our lives, but we've overlooked the fact that just about 100% of His will is already outlined in the Bible.